to me, the moment that'll be etched in my mind forever. And as Ed and I were sitting there with the headsets on, and the headsets were living, and you can imagine, there was so much noise. When Don Scott said 1 minute to go, I still get chills. And I looked at Ed, and Ed looked back at me, and we can't hear each other. I'm still calm. We can't physically, I mean, we have the cans on, and we're supposed to be able to hear each other just fine. And no time in my broadcasting life had that ever happened before. There is not a rock concert anywhere that could generate the noise that you guys did in the last 60 seconds. And to me, it was the most special hockey moment. As great as Manitoba was and as great as Milwaukee was, it wasn't here. It wasn't with you guys. It was getting on a plane and coming home, and it was, and that has its own specialness to it, but being here, the first time in 30 years, and where Bears hockey honestly has come in 30 years, a lot of people forget, it wasn't a sellout even when they clinched the cup in '80 against New Brunswick. It was close, but what it has become, partially I think because of Giant Center, partially because of the region and having the Capitals, and there are a lot of reasons, but this is the golden age that we're watching right now. The fact that all of you are here on a Friday at 4 o'clock in August is staggering to me.
Michael Layton really is, he had spurt. I actually know him quite well because he was with me when I was with the Albany River Rats a couple of years ago during it was the 08-09 season? No, 07-08 season, excuse me.
This is 101 saves, or 99 saves,
well,
or whatever.
I wasn't going to bring that up, but yeah, he started game 4 against the Phantoms. It was the 5 overtime game we played in Albany. We played from 7 o'clock till 12:35 a.m. And he made 99 saves out of 101 shots.
I was real happy. You might remember Owen was with me for a couple of games in Albany, and when we went to overtime, I just looked at him and was like, this was really a mistake bringing you here.
But I mean, unfortunately for Mike, he played so well with Albany and earned a 2-year contract with the Carolina Hurricanes, NHL, as a backup for Cam Ward, who was clearly going to be their #1 and still is, and really didn't get a lot of playing time up there after playing almost every game for Albany, and really was our journeyman. And so when he got picked up on waivers, and Flyers had a really big issue with injuries with goaltending last year, and so to have him come in and play as well as he did, remember, he wasn't even supposed to play in the Winter Classic, and then he turns out to come within a minute or so of shutting out the Bruins and winning, and that was an exceptional game and a lot of fun. To have the freak accident and injury that he suffered right before the playoffs was amazing, but probably even better was that he was able to come back and still, after missing all of the first round, play well and lead them. I don't think anybody thought that the Flyers were the odds-on favorite last year to go through the playoffs in the Eastern Conference, especially with the amazing season that the Caps had, and teams like Pittsburgh. And there's so many good teams out there. But they show their commitment. Remember that everybody's dealing with salary cap issues too, so if they went after somebody, but they paid him, I think they doubled the salary. But between him, Brian Boucher, who's under contract this year as well, and the guy who I thought really showed an amazing learning curve with the Phantoms was Johan Backlund. He came out of Sweden. He's not a young guy. He's 28. He'll be 29 this year. Had never played in North America, and he admitted that it took a while to get used to it because the ice surface is a little bit different size, so you have different angles. Plus, guys crash the net a heck of a lot more in this league and in the NHL than they do over in Sweden and in most of Europe. And he said Sweden is a little more physical than some of the other European leagues. But from what I hear, and I'm not privy to all the Flyers conversations by any means, there'll be a real interesting battle this year between Boucher and Backlund for the #2 spot. It's obviously one of the premier facilities in the league. There are very few that not only have the fan support and the sheer numbers of attendance, but also the atmosphere. And it's clear when the last couple of these seasons that if we have like 3-2 or a 2-1 lead going into the third period and we take a penalty right before the second intermission, there's going to be trouble because the Bears are coming out on the power play with 10,000 plus fans right behind them, and if it goes in, there's just going to be, let's use the roller coaster analogy, all downhill after that. And, I think that it also helps because the success that the franchise has had and the team has been, is no question, they've been very good. So any young player in the American Hockey League and any young team, or even the team that wants to, it's kind of a measuring stick. They want to know how they measure up against one of the best. And so with Adirondack last year, the team, we didn't make the playoffs, but the one thing that we did have more success than any other team in the league was beating Hershey. And that was something that was not taken
That did not make us happy, by the way.
We were with about 2 weeks left in the season. It was a situation where we had to win out and have 2 or 3 teams lose most of their games, and we were still talking with John about the possibility of a first-round series with the Bears and the Phantoms, and that was the last thing that Hershey wanted. Obviously, we saw what happened the rest of the playoffs, but it's a lot of fun to get back to the question. It's a lot of fun to come here because of the energy. You know, there are we mentioned Lowell earlier. There are very few buildings that put 10,000 people in and have that kind of atmosphere. You know, we have, everybody has Wednesday nights or Sunday afternoon crowds that aren't up to where they'd like to be, and then you have other buildings where it's packed. Like we've had Binghamton nights, which is one of the more entertaining venues for me because you're from a broadcasting perspective, you're right on top of the ice. When it's jammed at the Broome County Arena, it's really fun.
It is fun.
And just on a lighter note, the press meal that we get in Hershey is widely regarded as one of, if not the top meal in the league.
Echoing what Owen said, coming into here, the atmosphere, it's awesome. The amenities from our perspective are great. Probably the one of, if not the best broadcast positions in the league. Results on the ice from a Binghamton perspective, it sucks coming here. One win, I think, in our last 20 visits. So that's, as much as I love coming here for the atmosphere, catching up with John.
Listen, no conversation with me is worth that.
Two points in the standings, it rarely ever happens down here for Binghamton to go back home with.
You know, Edmonton, by giving him the one way, is certainly going to give him every chance in the world to make that team. And it's a team that, you know, certainly has its holes, and he's going to have the chance. And you know, the question is with him is, you know, he's kind of a half-step slow. That's what the problem's been up there. And you know, can he find a way to adjust to that and make that up? You know, it's a big question. Either way, I mean, he's going to be making $500,000 one way this year, so there will be a measure of solace if he's in Oklahoma City. And just as an aside, I mean, you've really got to admire the guy because I mean, he's offered, you know, basically it was $1.5 million to play in Russia, and that's tax-free money, and he turned that down to stay here. That's how much, you know, playing in the National Hockey League means to him. And you know, you can talk about that kind of stuff in theory, but if you're confronted with it personally, it's kind of a, you know, a real personal reckoning. I think it's just, you know, my hat's off to him for, you know, having that kind of conviction to stay in North America and take the opportunity and the, you know, the presumed prestige of playing in the NHL over, you know, big cash in hand.
Somebody said 1.5 in broadcast in Russia. I'd at least think about Rosetta Stone Russian.